All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm Elaine Christian with the City of West Palm Beach Office of Sustainability, and we are so excited to be partnering with Busch Wildlife Sanctuary today to chat about living with Florida wildlife. We have Rebecca Reed and her team with Busch Wildlife Sanctuary with us, and I can't wait to learn more. If you have any questions during the presentation, please drop them in the chat box, and we will also keep an eye on the Q&A box as well. So if you think of anything during the presentation, just drop your questions in there. And keep in mind, if you like today's program, we have many more schedules, and you can always visit wpb.org/green to view our upcoming programs. I will also be sending out a follow-up email after today's presentation, which will include a recording of the program today, and also any important links or resources that we come across throughout today's presentation, along with links to our web pages as well. So you will have all that information in an email to you after this presentation today. So now I'd like to transition to the Busch Wildlife team so we can find more about living with Florida wildlife.
All right, hi everyone, how are you? My name is Rebecca. This is Mackenzie. And behind the camera is
Christy, hi.
So basically what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be talking about living with Florida wildlife, sharing with you any kind of information, maybe even stories, common questions that we receive here at the sanctuary. And then if you happen to have any questions as we go, feel free to chat them, and Christy will be able to kind of read them out to us, and we'll be able to answer them. But first, before we get started, I do want to share with you all what Busch Wildlife Sanctuary is all about. So Busch Wildlife, it is a nonprofit organization, and spacebar for this. It is a nonprofit organization. We are dedicated to rehab, release, and educate of our Florida animals. So we actually intake more than 5,000 injured, sick, and orphaned wild animals every single year, with the ultimate goal of releasing those animals back out into the wild. Now, we do have a sanctuary that is open for everyone to come and visit Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And the animals that you will see on exhibit here at the sanctuary are actually animals that cannot be released for one reason or another. They're basically rescues. So they're here because they were injured, sick, orphaned, maybe even kept as pets, which is most of the time illegal for these animals. So we have actually over 200 animals that currently live as sanctuary residents. Oh, Miss Chrissy, you can go to the next slide.
You can scoot a little closer even if you want.
To
like half
this
half.
So Florida's home to many different types of animals, and the main reason we're here right now is to talk about living with these animals, how we can coexist with them, and how we can accept them into our lives, basically.
Pretty much. I mean, we have to learn to live with these animals because as humans, we have kind of developed our own homes on their homes. And so it's definitely really important for us to coexist because they're our neighbors, we're theirs, and we shouldn't be trying to take what is already theirs. We definitely need to learn some fun facts and things to do to help those animals.
Yeah, and we do need to understand that Florida is a growing population. We are developing like crazy. So when someone calls us at the sanctuary and says, hey, I have a bobcat in my backyard, we'd like to explain that your backyard now is the wild. So you're going to see a lot more animals coming through your yard, your neighborhood, your parks and whatnot, just simply due to the development. All right, let's go. You want to go ahead, Ms. Mackenzie?
Yes,
Like
reptiles. I love my reptiles. And it's kind of funny because most people are a little indifferent about them. So reptiles are animals that are classed by having three main characteristics. That is, they have scales covering their body or bony plates. They are cold-blooded, which doesn't mean that their blood is cold. It means that their blood and body temperature are dependent on the air around them and the temperature around them. So when it's cold outside, our animals will be cold. When it's warm and they're sunning themselves, that's how they heat their bodies. So they are cold-blooded, and they also lay eggs. So those three things make our reptiles, and Florida is actually home to over 400 species of reptiles. They are fabulous animals. And so we have quite a few different types. We have crocodiles, alligators, lizards and snakes, turtles, and tortoises. So all of those different animals you will see in your own very own backyard here in Florida. So these are some of our frequently seen reptile friends, but like I said, they do have over 400 species of them. So these are some of our native friends that we see. We have a softshell turtle, an American alligator, a green anole. Down below the green anole, that is not a snake, that is an eastern glass lizard. Right next to him is the red rat snake, and finally our beautiful gopher tortoise. So all of these different animals we have around our areas, and they are all very special in their own unique ways. So first and foremost, our beautiful American alligator. He is our state reptile of Florida. These guys are pretty amazing creatures. When they first hatch out of their eggs, they can be really, really tiny, but they do grow quite large. Our alligators often reach sizes of about 12 to 13 feet when they're fully matured, but they do grow their entire lives. So if you ever run into an alligator that is well over 13 feet, you can assume that that is a very old alligator. They often can live in a very well-developed environment. They can live to be about 75 years old. So when you see the big guys, those are the older guys. Now our alligators, they are our state reptile of Florida because they are called a keystone species. That's actually an animal that helps other animals. So this alligator helps others by finding water sources for them. Alligators out in the wild, they like to dig what is called a gator hole. And so it's a big puddle that they make themselves, and it develops with water. And then eventually that big alligator wants to move to a new place. And so they'll start walking out of the gator hole, walking into the mud, and their massive bodies are going to start to submerge into the mud and create tracks and trails. And then the water from the gator hole will move from the gator hole into the tracks, and it actually creates its own little canal system. So then other animals can find these water sources that the alligators have made, and now they're not dying of dehydration from droughts and things that are happening here in Florida. So our alligators are really excellent animals.
Very excellent animals, but can become very dangerous when they become accustomed to humans. So alligators, like Miss Mackenzie said, they grow very large. It is not uncommon to see small alligators in Florida, large alligators. So we do need to be aware that they are found in pretty much every body of fresh water, whether that be a canal, a river, a lake, a pond, a stream, a retention pond that might be behind your home. So it is not uncommon to see these animals. It is not uncommon to see them just like this one here, walking across a golf course. Now, a true wild alligator is going to be one that's very indifferent towards you. They would be walking along this golf course and not even caring that these people are standing here, just basically moving from one place to the other. Another thing about our alligators that would kind of show you one that's not accustomed to humans so much is if they see you, they move away from you. An alligator that is not afraid of people, those are the ones that we deem a nuisance alligator. And eventually those are alligators that are typically removed from the wild. And the main reason they would be removed and that they become accustomed to people is that someone may have fed them along the way. They just kind of get used to seeing us. They get used to seeing us walking our dogs right next to the water. And then they start to lose fear and they start to approach, come closer and closer and closer. So if you do have an alligator that you are concerned about that is coming closer to you, you can call trappers for something like that. However, do keep in mind that alligators, when they are trapped, a lot of times they're actually euthanized. They're not relocated, they're not rehomed. So you need to make sure that you're actually calling for an alligator that is actually causing a problem and not just getting rid of an alligator that you happen to see.
Sometimes alligators are liking to be in swimming pools.
Yes.
as well.
That happens too, and that's when you can just, fish them out and
I know.
find a new place.
If there is an alligator in your swimming pool, usually they'll move along pretty quickly, mainly because it's chlorinated water that they don't really enjoy, but also there's no food in there. So they're probably just making a little bit of a pit stop in your pool, and then they're like, this is no fun. And then they move along. So we do on occasion get alligators into the sanctuary that were found in pools. However, for the most part, they don't last very long in those pools and they move along. You want to take this one?
Sure, yeah. So we've got some frequently asked questions about our alligators. One that we hear a lot is, will alligators attack people and pets? And just like Rebecca was saying, alligators normally are pretty indifferent about people. However, it's important for us people to give our alligators their space and respect. We should never try to approach a wild alligator. We should never be trying to get close to them. And when we have our pets outside, that's definitely an area for us to work on. I see too many people walking their dogs off leash near water sources. And like we were saying, alligators are often found in any kind of fresh water source. That's their natural home and habitat. So when we are walking our dogs, please keep those animals on leash away from those water sources. It may not look like an alligator is in there, but those alligators can normally hold their breath for up to 2 hours underwater, taking a nap or something. So it's really important to stay as far away from that as possible. Keep your dogs and cats on leash or on a harness, keep them close to you. Now, we have another one. An alligator is chasing you, what do? Well, first you need to assess how on earth did you get close enough for the alligator to chase you? But if that is the case, a very common misconception is run in zigzags. Don't do that. Don't do that. Alligators, they have a very flat head, and their eyes are located on either side of their flat head, and their eyes point sideways. So when you are running zigzags in front of an alligator's nose, it can actually keep an eye on you, keep watching you, keep seeing you. Plus, it's slowing you down. However, if you are in front of that alligator and you run straight ahead, it's not going to be able to see you in front of its nose. And so eventually it's going to start thinking, wait, why am I running? I can't see what I'm chasing. And then it'll slow down. Plus, it keeps you going faster. So do not do zigzags. Don't tell your friends to do zigzags. Run straight as fast as you can. Now, another one. Can alligators climb fences? A lot of people don't know this. Yes, they can. They can actually climb a fence. I believe it's a 6-foot fence. They're able to climb one of those kind of weaved, I don't know what they're called.
Chain link?
Chain link fences. They can climb those. So if you ever see that happening, just back away, give it space, let it do its thing. But yes, they can climb fences. Normally they wouldn't be too keen on trying to climb a normal wood fence or anything like that. They just need something to be able to get their claws into. So that's another common question.
And then we already discussed.
Yes, we discussed the
pets. So we can move on with our next. Okay, so really quickly, we touched on most of this stuff, but just throwing out some estimates. An unprovoked alligator is not going to attack you. And in 70 years there have been 401 reported alligator attacks. Really not anything to be so concerned about. You will notice though really quickly that if you see a danger sign, don't have your dog sitting near the water. Also, don't ever approach an alligator that's basking in the sun. It's not nice. What they're just trying to do is warm themselves up. And you just need to make sure that you give yourself enough space between the alligator. All right, moving along on our, we can just keep going with that. Moving along with our reptiles. Green iguanas are a non-native animal. It was probably released by the pet trade, basically. So someone got a pet iguana, decided that they do not want it as a pet anymore, and then it just kind of took over. That does happen a lot in Florida. Florida is home to many, many different types of invasive species, mainly because we have such a mild climate. It doesn't get super, super hot. I beg to differ, but it also doesn't get very cold ever. So a lot of tropical species do manage to make Florida their home. So our iguanas here, they are vegisaurs. They like to eat vegetables. They're going to be very large males, and then they have some smaller females. But iguanas, they're known to wreak havoc on your landscape. They're also known to eat fruits and vegetables out of your trees. So basically, they just compete with our native lizards and other types of reptiles or herbivores. And they're just not really that great for the environment.
No, honestly, no invasive species is usually good for the environment. They have also been known, they did a study and they found that these guys also eat some snails and things like that. So while they are mostly herbivores, they will snack on a couple of meat items, and that can be a little bit concerning due to our low population of some of our tree snails that we have here in Florida. So them trying to eat up our already low population of tree snails is also affecting our environment, because that's them taking away our natural animals and ecosystems right there. So these guys, they're not very good to have around. I know they look cool. They are it looks like they're right out of a movie. They look like cartoon characters, but they're not good for our environment, unfortunately, but they are all over the place.
They are, and they can spread salmonella to humans.
Yes.
So many reptiles can do that. You probably hear that with turtles and tortoises and things like that. Our iguanas can as well.
Do you want to mention anything about cold iguanas falling from the sky?
Oh, that's actually a really
yes,
good
that's a
point.
dangerous thing. So in Florida, while we don't get crazy winters, iguanas do go through a type of hibernation when it gets a little too cold out. And there have been instances in our past years of iguanas basically being frozen up, falling out of trees onto people. So be aware of that when you're walking around somewhere.
And don't
It's
put them
cold
in your
out.
trunk and
Yes.
drive them around without containing them, because they
They
will
will wake
magically
up.
come back to life and run around your car.
Iguanas,
So just be aware that there are falling iguanas in the wintertime when we get a cold snap.
You thought Florida was boring? All right. Ms. Rebecca?
Yeah,
you wanna
sure. We'll continue.
Yes.
So Florida is home to lots of snakes. I know that one of the questions that was asked were snakes in West Palm Beach. Snakes in West Palm Beach are basically the same kinds of snakes that you're going to see in Jupiter. So we do have 40, actually more than 40 different kinds of snakes. 6 of them are going to be venomous. However, either way, if you see a snake, leave it alone. Snakes are actually very good for the environment, to the point where they're taking care of all those little critters that we don't really need to have around, like rats and mice and lizards and frogs and toads. So snakes actually do help to curb the spread of disease. And if you happen to see a little black racer, or maybe even a red rat snake in your backyard, that little guy's eating all of the cockroaches that might make their way into your home. So they might be kind of creepy, they might be a little scary. However, trust me when I say they are much more afraid of you than you are of them. So unless that snake is maybe in your porch or inside of your home.
Inside your home.
Yeah.
Startling.
Really, just leave it alone, because I guarantee you'll probably never see that snake again.
Yeah, like Ms. Rebecca was saying, snakes are much more afraid of us than we are of them. More times than not, once you make yourself kind of apparent in their ecosystem or in their home, you go outside and you see the snake on your back porch or in your backyard, it's gonna see you the same way you see it. You think, oh my gosh, that's a snake. He thinks, oh my gosh, that's a human. He's gonna try to slither away from you. Snakes are not programmed to see us and try to bite us. But that seems to be a really common thing people think, is that you see a snake, it's gonna bite me. But that's not the case. Snakes are just like any animal with teeth. If you're scaring it and threatening it, yes, it might try to bite. So as long as you're making sure that you're staying safe and away from that animal, it's not interested in biting you. It's not interested in trying to come attack you. It just wants to stay away from you because we're big, scary animals threatening it or, you know, scaring it. So it's up to us to be smart, back away, and you probably won't see him again. If you do, that's good because that's your free pest control. You're not spending your time, effort, and money on a pest control trying to get rid of those rats and mice. So these are some of our native species of snakes with a couple of exceptions here. And you'll notice that a lot of them, they all have beautiful different colors. And so one of the main ways to tell a species of snakes is, of course, by its colorations. So here we see a couple of our different black snakes, like our southern ringneck, our indigo, and our black racer. We also have the beautiful red rat snake up in the top corner there, our Florida king snake, and down here, that is not a copperhead, that is our, not a cottonmouth, that is actually our banded water snake. So you'll see that every one of them has something different about it. And so when a lot of people see these different animals and these different snakes, more times than not, they're immediately going to see it and think it's venomous, but they don't really have any kind of background to that. It's just that fear of snakes. So when you see these guys, these are the good ones to have around. These are fine, and all snakes are good to have around. It's just important that we keep our distance from them. Now down here in this little corner, those are some of our kind of more frequently spotted non-native snakes, our invasive species. So down there is the famous Burmese Python that we have, and we'll be talking a little bit more about him. Then we also have the Brahminy blind snake. He actually is really tiny. He looks more like a worm, but he is invasive coming from parts of Asia. So those are some of our snakes that we have in Florida. There he is.
Yep. So that's a beautiful Burmese python. They are beautiful animals in the right environment. However, they are not native to Florida, and they are wreaking havoc on our environment and on our ecosystem. So they are causing animals in the Everglades to decline majorly. They eat endangered animals, they eat wood storks, they eat many of the critters that are not doing so well in the environment, and they grow to massive sizes. They're absolutely huge snakes, and they were released most likely from the pet trade. And sorry, we have someone knocking on the door. It's probably for snakes, reptiles. So anyway, they do grow very, very large, and they are wreaking havoc on our environment. They can eat alligators as well. I don't know if you've all seen that one picture of an alligator that had, like, or the snake that exploded while eating the alligator.
Yeah.
But I have read studies where it basically says that the populations of mammals in the Everglades has declined. I want to say like almost 90%. It was insane.
Awful. And to touch on how much they're eating, that's also taking away natural resources for our already low number of panthers we have in Florida. These guys are constantly eating things that the Florida panther would normally have on their menu, like white-tailed deer and boars and things like that. So that's what all of those Burmese pythons are doing. They're eating our natural resources of animals, plus taking away resources for our already endangered panthers. So these guys, they are not good to have around. Like we said, as beautiful as they are not here. They shouldn't be here in Florida. This is not their natural home. Their natural home should be back in Asia, where they come from, where they belong.
And it's really a shame. It's not their fault that they're here. And you can see that one picture. That is the largest python, I believe, or one of the largest pythons that was caught. So people do hunt the pythons. They do have python hunting challenges and whatnot. So if you are interested in helping to catch them, FWC, which is our wildlife police, actually does offer classes for something
courses,
like that. Yeah.
Special programs and things like that.
All right.
Oh, this is one of my favorites.
I'll take a look at that.
So this is talking a little bit about our venomous snakes that we have here in the state of Florida. So we have our 6 that we have, and we also have a image that kind of just talks about poisonous versus non-poisonous, but let me clarify, there's no such thing as a poisonous snake, only venomous. Poisonous is if you eat it, venomous is if it bites you. So there's just some information about our poisonous and our venomous, should I say. We're going to move on from this, and if, of course, if you have any questions regarding that, you can feel free to comment them below.
There's also a really cool website. It's the Florida Museum, where you can actually look up snakes patterns, and then they can give you an idea of what snake it may be.
Also, there's Facebook groups and things
Yes.
like that. You can literally just, luckily, we're in the day of age where we don't need to see a snake and immediately get a shovel and kill it and bring it in somewhere and say, hey, what is this? All we really need to do is pull out our phone from our pocket, take a picture, and submit it to either this website or Facebook groups and say, hey, what is this? And you will get an answer in seconds. Really, it's crazy. So we're very lucky to have that in these times.
The only thing I would like to really touch on this page here is just that it says 95% of snake bites are male aged 15 to 35, and 97% of snake bites are due to people provoking snakes. Do not provoke the snake. Provoking the snake obviously is the main reason you're going to get bit. Now we can only assume when males are getting bit, they're the ones that are probably trying to provoke the snake or try to kill it.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of our next reptiles we'll be talking a little about is our turtle friends that we have. So this is the Florida box turtle. These guys are absolutely gorgeous. And they get that name box turtle because they can actually close their entire body into their shell and then close their shell up so that they really do close up like a little box. So that shell, of course, keeps them protected from any kind of predators in their area. Now, they can actually close their shell in there, or their bodies in their shell, because of this carapace, or their top shell. It's very tall, allows them to pull themselves in. So those guys are really excellent, wonderful animals.
And if you do happen to find one in your yard, please do not take it. It is actually illegal to take a box turtle from the wild and keep it as a pet.
Yes, and the same goes for this guy, our Gopher Tortoise. These guys, they do grow a little bit bigger than the box turtles, but it's actually extremely illegal to even touch these guys, up to a $10,000 fine just for poking him. So do not touch our Gopher Tortoises. They are extremely helpful animals. They are a keystone species, just like an alligator is. They create burrows that actually create homes for up to 375 other animal species. So with them, they're able to allow all these different animal species to get homes and stay safe in the wild. So really wonderful. We love our Gopher Tortoises.
And what I'd like to just add really quickly about Gopher Tortoises is that the only time you're allowed to touch a Gopher Tortoise is if you want to help it out of the road. Now, when I say that, I mean literally picking up that Gopher Tortoise, putting it across the sidewalk, and then leaving it alone. You are not allowed to put that tortoise in your car, drive it down the road 3 miles, and then put it down. You basically can just take him out of the road, put him over the curb, and then leave him there. Otherwise, like Miss Mackenzie said, it can be a fine.
Yes, quite a hefty fine. So like we were just kind of talking about, no, you cannot have a Gopher Tortoise as a pet. Very big no, don't do that. And then of course, I found a box turtle in the road. Should I take it to my local park? Nope. All you have to do is cross it across the street. They know where their home is. They know where they want to go. Turtles and tortoises like very stubborn animals. So all you need to do is get them to safety. You don't need to go through the hustle and bustle of taking them to a park or taking them to us. We will literally, if there's nothing wrong with that turtle, we will literally take it right back where he came from, because that's his home. That's where he wants to be.
And pointing out that sign that says turtle crossing, we just need to understand that the land that these turtles and tortoises live on is going to be fragmented by roads. There are going to be places where the gopher tortoise is going to need to get from point A to point B, and it might actually have a road down the center. So what we can do is we can brake for turtles. So if you ever see one in the road, feel free to stop. You can either help them or just make sure that you don't hit them. And if you do find a turtle that needs help, that has been hit by a car, you can bring it to the sanctuary and we will be able to help with that.
Now, our next set of animals we'll be talking about are our mammals, and we are mammals. So they share some very similar characteristics to us, like having fur or hair. They are also warm-blooded, and so that means that we can maintain our body temperature. So unlike a snake or an alligator, if they get cold, they need to go into the sun to warm up. All we need to do is put on a jacket and we'll get warm. Now, we also give live birth. We do not give eggs or lay eggs. So that's how we are mammals. We have many different types of mammals that are classed. There's rodents, apes and monkeys, hoofed animals and aquatic mammals, and also dogs, cats, and other carnivores. So those are all the different types of mammals. Now, here we have some of our frequently seen mammals in Florida. Over there is a marsh rabbit. He's a little different than a cottontail, mainly by the size of his ears. You can tell that he's got shorter ears, marsh rabbit. Now, right next to him is the beautiful manatee. We love our manatees here in Florida. We also have a little bat flying there next to our little river otter right there. We also have a gray squirrel, a white-tailed deer, our beautiful bobcat, and a northern raccoon. So lots of different mammals we have in Florida.
Now, someone did ask earlier about Florida bunnies. So that little marsh rabbit is one of 2 rabbits that are found in this part of Florida. So the marsh rabbit is the brown one. He does not have a white tail. They are actually really good swimmers because they live in watery areas. So places where they're going to have to maybe escape a predator by swimming. And the other rabbit is a cottontail. They're much more common. And the cottontails are the ones that you're going to see in your backyard eating all the clovers and that kind of stuff. So I hope that helps to answer the questions of the 2 rabbits.
Now, right here we have our 2 beautiful skunks. And yes, we do have 2 types of skunks in Florida. Right up here, these are the striped skunks. So you can see they have the distinguishing 2 white stripes down their back. He is the bigger of the 2. And then right below him, the spotted skunk. And the spotted skunk, you can see, has many different white markings all across his body. And these guys are actually really cool. They only reach about the size of a squirrel. So they are really little. But they do this really interesting thing when they spray. Both of these skunks do spray. And whether it be big or little, they do have quite a smell to them. So that is an oil they produce, and it is extra stinky to ward off predators. And unlike the striped skunk, where he just lifts his tail and aims, our spotted skunk will do a handstand and make himself look bigger to try to ward off the predator before he sprays. So both of these are pretty amazing animals. And just to touch a little bit about the skunk spray, a common misconception is if you get sprayed by a skunk, bathe in tomato juice. Don't do that. Don't do that, because instead of doing that and getting rid of the smell, you are actually making it worse, because tomato juice is water-based. Their spray is an oil. Oil and water don't mix. And so if you bathe in tomato juice after being sprayed by a skunk, you're going to smell like a rotten tomato for about 2 weeks. So really nasty, don't do that. Instead, you can actually make a concoction of baking soda, hydrogen peroxide, and dish soap. And all of those together will get rid of the smell in about 2 showers. So much easier.
And usually it's our dogs that get sprayed by skunks,
so
because they're the ones out in the yard kind of doing their thing.
Yep.
I do want to mention that the striped skunk is not that common in this area. You might find them a little further west, but definitely further north. But the spotted skunk is the one that you're going to see around here more often. That's because they like to live on coastal areas, the coastal dunes. So if you're in a park and you're along the water and you smell skunk, it may actually be a little spotted skunk. Now, someone did have a question about the bats that we have in Florida. We actually don't have much information about bats. We very rarely get bats into the sanctuary. More recently, we have an animal keeper that has taken in some bats, and she does try to rehab them. However, I do have some good resources for you to check out. So there are the 13 different bats in Florida. The Florida Bat Conservancy, there's a wonderful woman that runs it, and the Florida Fish and Wildlife, you can find out a lot of information about the bats there. The picture of the bat box, that's a good bat box to get. You can actually find that through Florida Bat Conservancy. I believe it's called Bats in the Belfry is the type of bat box that is. If you go on any website, like an Amazon or anything like that, or even come to the sanctuary to purchase the bat boxes, they're good bat boxes. However, they're not really big colonial bat boxes. So if you want a decent amount of bats that are going to be coming into your yard, you want a large bat box.
All right, next up is one of my favorites. This is our Virginia opossum. And yes, you heard that right, opossum. Most people call them just possums, but that is their nickname. And that is because the real possum is this guy, and he lives in Australia. So that is a real possum, but all of these are our opossums, and they are the only native marsupial found in North America. And a marsupial is an animal that has their babies inside of a pouch on their belly, just like a kangaroo or a koala bear. So you'll see that our opossums, they have lots of babies, and once those babies get bigger and leave the pouch, they will cling onto mom's back. They're excellent climbers because they actually have little hands, just like we do with opposable thumbs, but on both their hands and feet. Now, opossums are very characteristic by these big, huge mouths that they have to kind of growl and hiss at people when they get scared. They do have the most teeth of any North American mammal. 50 teeth are in their mouths. But they also have a very strong characteristic of playing dead or playing possum, and that's how they can also stay safe from predators. So if these guys are in your area, rummaging around through your garbage and things, honestly, they're not going to hurt you or anything. They're actually really wonderful to have around. They eat lots of fleas and ticks, and they don't carry many diseases because their immune system is very strong. They cannot contract rabies. They cannot contract Lyme disease. So they are honestly pretty good. But if they are causing problems in your trash cans, you are always able to purchase some metal trash cans with secured lids. And that way they can't really smell the trash inside. And that will definitely deter them a little bit.
Now, if you ever do find a opossum in your garbage can, feel free to just tip over the garbage can, walk away, let the garbage can lay on its side for the entire day. Because if you stand there waiting for the opossum to leave the can, he's not going to. He's going to be very afraid of you. So tip it over, come back a little while later, and he's probably moved on.
Now we have our little trash bandits. These are our northern raccoons, and I can assure everybody has had a run-in with these guys. These guys are all over the place here in Florida, and as cute as they may be, it is very important for us to understand them. So these guys, yes, they will try to get into your trash cans just like the opossums. They are just smelling things that smell really good, but it's important that we understand we do not feed these animals. We do not get close to these animals. They are not pets. They are raccoons. They live out in the wild, and they are a strong rabies vector animal. So if you are bit by one of these animals, unfortunately, that means that animal needs to be tested. It needs to go away. It needs to probably be euthanized. And then you get to go through the joy of the shots of rabies vaccines. So it's definitely important that we keep our distance from these raccoons. And if you are having problems with them, again, you can invest in some better trash cans, secured lids. I've also heard that if you sprinkle cayenne pepper around your trash cans, they don't like that smell, so they'll stay away. And if you are having these guys go potty in your pools, which we get a lot of comments about, there's methods to put a screen over your pool to be able to prevent that. They're just trying to find a safe place to mask the odor of their potty. So pools are a very drawing area for them.
Wonderful. All right.
Ms.
I'll
Murphy?
talk about coyotes. Yeah, thank you. So coyotes are an animal that we are seeing much more often in our neighborhoods, especially because many of the larger predators that used to inhabit Florida are no longer. They are competing with, oh, excuse me. They're actually, okay, so coyotes are kind of taking the place of some of the larger predators that used to be here. So instead of competing with Florida panthers and Florida black bears and some of these bobcats, they're actually now the apex predator, the bigger predator in the area. So you may see coyotes running around, especially at night, because they are nocturnal animals, but do understand that they are timid and elusive creatures. If you do happen to see one, they should actually retreat and stay away from you. However, do keep in mind that if you are walking your dog at night, keep that dog on a leash and keep it close to you. You do not want to lose your dog to one of these animals. So it's just extra safe, extra precautions that you can take. But like I said, they are timid, they're elusive, they really don't want to be seen by people. We rarely get coyotes into the sanctuary as patients.
Now, this is what they look like, and just to kind of touch again about keeping your dogs on a leash. Another thing we definitely need to get into the habit of, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, is keeping our domestic cats inside. They already pose a big problem on some of our ecosystems, but coyotes, especially with their growing population, domestic cats being left outside unattended, it's very dangerous for them because these coyotes will go after them as well. So keep those guys inside.
All right, so we're running really close on time right now. We're almost very close to the point where we're going to start doing questions. I do want to just touch really quickly on 2 mammals, and then we'll just run through our birds, and then we can open it up to questions. So bobcats are another animal similar to coyotes that you're going to see. Same exact reason, just because of the fact that they're being pushed into smaller and smaller areas. So you will see them in your backyard. Most of the time, it's actually quite a treat to see a bobcat in your backyard. However, just keep in mind, animals on leashes, safest thing that you can do. That is a beautiful Florida panther. You will not see a Florida panther. And if you do, please feel free to let FWC know. They are a critically endangered species in Florida. And we can just keep moving along when we've said all that. Same thing. Okay, and birds. I'm sure everyone sees birds. You see birds more so than any other animal, maybe just squirrels. But birds are, that's why there's bird watchers, because they're readily available. You can see them all the time. They're not as afraid of people. So birds are obviously classed as having feathers and beaks. They're warm-blooded and they lay eggs. Yes, penguins are birds. They lay eggs and they fly underwater. And you'll have some frequently seen birds in Florida. We have here our great blue heron, sandhill crane, Florida scrub jay, our crested caracara. That is a grackle, female grackle, and a brown pelican, a spoonbill, roseate spoonbill, and an osprey. So we'll just touch on birds of prey. Birds of prey are animals that are called raptors as well. They have a carnivorous diet, and they're going to be eating some small mammals, reptiles, fish, other birds, and things like that. What characterizes them is they have long talons, a sharp beak. They will also have really good vision, and there's all there's 2 like major kinds of birds of prey. You have the diurnal and the nocturnal. So eagles, hawks, falcons, vultures, those are all your diurnal birds of prey, and then your nocturnal birds. You will see these animals all the time in your backyard, flying overhead. They really do not pose any kind of threat to you personally. We can keep going.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
So Miss Mackenzie kind of touched on the Florida bird stats, 3.7 billion birds are killed by domestic cats each year. So we do advocate here at the sanctuary for keeping your cats indoors. Keeping your cats indoors saves billions of birds.
As well as keeps the already growing population of stray cats down. So definitely do that, keep them in.
So due to the loss of habitat, burrowing owls and scrub jays are recently threatened species. That is a beautiful burrowing owl. We saw a scrub jay on the other slide. And one thing we can definitely do to help animals or birds of prey in general is not to use rodenticides. Rodenticides, any kind of poisons, actually build up in the food chain. So if you poison a rat or a mouse, that rat or mouse gets eaten by a snake, then that snake gets eaten by a hawk. So it works its way up to the food chain. And please do not mistake that it will eventually work its way into us. So we are poisoning the environment by using rodenticides and poisons for the animals. These animals all have a place in the environment, in the ecosystem. So if you have a rat problem, feel free to go get a barn owl box. Put that barn owl box in your backyard. Hopefully you'll get a barn owl, and that barn owl is going to have an all-day buffet or an all-night buffet right outside your door, eating all those rats and mice for you.
All right, how can we help our wildlife? There's a lot of different things. Obviously, never litter, volunteer, show your support for organizations like us and other facilities that are working effortlessly to always try to help our wildlife, and donate to those organizations. Your donations are keeping these things running, keeping us working, and allows us to continue our efforts to helping our wildlife as much as possible.
Wonderful. And it is possible for you to volunteer at the Busch Wildlife Sanctuary. You have to be 15 years or older. You can actually find the application on our website, and we have Boy Scouts and other environmental groups actually come in and help us as well. But that is definitely one thing you can do to help those animals and us. All right, so if we want to open it up to any questions, we'll be more than happy to answer some questions.
So we do have a few questions in the chat already.
Okay.
Miss Aurora Gibson, hello. She wanted to know, do ball pythons, royal pythons breed in the Everglades?
So yes, they do. We do have a very high number of different types of invasive species, especially reptiles and snakes here in Florida. Ball pythons and royal pythons are breeding, just not as fast as Burmese pythons. And of course, ball and royal pythons do not grow to the massive size as Burmese. So they are definitely not as, a threat, but any kind of invasive species is going to be a problem for our Everglades, for our natural resources, because again, they're eating the rats and mice that could be eaten up by bobcats, owls, things like that. So they are out there, just not as prevalent as a problem.
And I would like to share that if you do happen to have a snake like a ball python that you have as a pet, there are options for you. Many people will release these animals into the wild because they don't know what else to do with them. However, you can go through FWC, Florida Fish and Wildlife, and they have a pet amnesty day where you can actually take your ball python. You can take whatever animal you actually have, whether it's kept legally or illegally, and you can turn that animal over, no questions asked. So please don't release your animals into the wild. It is detrimental. You can actually take them to that pet amnesty day and walk away.
And also don't keep a wild illegal.
Yeah, well, don't keep a wild.
Don't keep illegal or wild animals. Ball pythons, it's legal, but don't release them into the wild.
All right, along that line, Michael wants to know, are populations of pythons decreasing in Florida?
Oh, that's actually a good question.
That's a good question.
I don't believe so.
I don't believe so, mainly because our python hunts for the most recent years have been to hunt the adult pythons, but we aren't going after the nests that can have 20 plus eggs in them. So we definitely need to kind of gear our python hunts into searching out those nests, those eggs, because that is definitely one of the most prevalent problems. Is we do a python hunt, we take away about 50 pythons, and yet we are increasing them because all those eggs are going to be hatching in the summer. So I don't believe it's really going down drastically. It goes down little by little every year, but we're just hopeful that eventually it can be either eliminated or to the point where it's not as difficult a problem anymore.
And as far as I understand too, pythons are very cryptic, which means that they blend into the environment. So they're very difficult to find. They're very difficult to hunt to begin with. So there could be even more than we even understand, just because of the fact that
we
it's
just
very
kind of
difficult to keep track
estimate
of them.
Kat wants to know, what can we do about iguanas and can they be euthanized?
I've heard that people are eating the iguanas. Apparently that's a thing happening. They can be euthanized. Of course, one of the main ways we ask to eliminate the problem is to trap and humanely, get rid of them. You can turn them over to FWC when you get them, and they can take care of that problem for you. Of course, I hate to imagine people going out and just doing whatever they need to kill them, because even though they're bad for our population, you want to do it in a humane way. So yes, they are able to be euthanized. They're able to be captured humanely and taken to a facility that can do that. But it's kind of, I'm not even sure what the law is. It's not a free for all, but it is basically.
It is a little bit of a free for all, mainly because of the fact that they are invasive species. So they don't have many rules and regulations that come along with them. So they're not protected. I definitely heard a huge backlash over them saying that it was okay to capture and kill iguanas. That was about 6 to 8 months ago.
Yeah.
However, for me personally, I would never do that, but it is possible. You can find facilities that will do it.
And lastly, Elaine, the final thoughts here. She wants a couple minutes at the end for a few slides, so this has to be kind of quick, but she wants to know if we can touch on habitat loss due to development and also impacts of climate change on native animals.
Okay. Which one do you want to handle one?
Yeah, I can take over the habitat loss. So some of our animals that are suffering the most from habitat loss are, of course, our gopher tortoises, burrowing owls, indigo snakes, pine snakes, mainly because all of those scrubland areas are being developed on, and they are eliminating our vast majority of our gopher tortoise homes. Like we had stated, they create those burrows to house over 375 other animal species. And when we eliminate those burrows, that is causing a devastating effect on the number of those animals, because now they don't have a home. And as animals, everyone needs the 5 main things to survive, including water, food, air, all those. And one of those happens to be shelter or home or space. And when we take one of those essential items away from those animals, it's already diminishing how they can survive. And if we diminish how they can survive, then that's just eliminating their numbers. And so yes, habitat loss is having a pretty big impact on those critters. Of course, a lot of developments do have to go through a lot of laws and regulations to ensure that their area is being upkept and they are not removing any kind of animal. But I think it could definitely be done better in a way where we can ensure that there is no protected animal on this land. It seems to be, or at least in my eyes, it seems like a lot of corporations and buildings are kind of weaseling their way around that. And that's not how it should be done. It should be done in a very, specified manner to ensure that we are living harmoniously with those animals, not just digging them up, moving them, and putting our spot down. That shouldn't be how it is. Yeah, that's what I think.
That was an opinion piece.
You're welcome.
No, when it comes to climate change, I am not the most knowledgeable person when it comes to that. However, we've seen what it has done to many of these other places like Australia. We see what it's doing in California and in Colorado. I know we are having these really horrible detrimental wildfires where they're killing many, many animals, lots of different species. In Florida, I don't know exactly what the repercussions are currently. However, I have heard that when it comes to reptiles especially, it may start to affect them because reptiles, when the eggs are incubating, it affects the internal temperature of the eggs. So as temperature rises, we have the saying for sea turtles where it's hot chicks and cool dudes. So we'll end up having more and more females, and it's actually the opposite for alligators. So you'll have hot dudes and cool chicks.
Yeah.
So then you'll have more males. And of course, we all know that a species cannot survive without both male and female animals. So I can definitely speak to that. But otherwise, I just don't feel like I am so knowledgeable on that subject where I can really elaborate more.
And I think that's it. I think that's all we have time for.
Okay, all right.
Well, thank you guys so much. I'm going to just share a few slides, but I want to just give the team at Busch Wildlife Sanctuary a virtual round of applause. You guys gave a really great presentation, and I know I've truly enjoyed it, and I know our audience has too. And I know there's some other questions out there that we just couldn't get to today. But again, I'm going to try to send out the links that we talked about today in a follow-up email. And also, oh, there's a snake. There you go. Now we can see it. And so I just want to, I'm going to share my screen really quickly because we just learned about living with Florida wildlife, but we want to also think about what we can do to provide a better habitat for the wildlife. So like conserving our natural resources. One program that we have, and we have a lot, but just one that I want to point out is our rain barrel giveaway. So we give away free 55-gallon rain barrels to City of West Palm Beach residents, or City of West Palm Beach water customers, I should say, one per household. And we have a virtual workshop and safe parking lot pickup. So due to COVID, we've modified our program. We want to make it safe for you and also be able to give you these resources. So our next giveaway is on November 14th, and I encourage you to visit wpb.org/savewater for more information on that. And also one other program I want to just touch on here is our native tree giveaway. So we talked about habitat loss. You can also increase the habitat in your backyard by planting native trees, and you can get them for free from the City of West Palm Beach Office of Sustainability. These are free for City of West Palm Beach residents and businesses. We are giving away 4 free trees per property per year, and we have an online application and again, those safe pickups for you. So visit wpb.org/10ktrees, and our next giveaway is on November 7th. We actually are going to be also at the Green Market on October 31st for a big and spooky tree giveaway. That tree giveaway does not require an application. It's going to have limited tree species, but I do encourage you, if you are interested, and if you're at the Green Market, stop by and see us, see what trees we have. It's on a first come, first served basis. But these are all ongoing programs. And next Friday, we have a special program on Conquer Energy Vampires. So the Office of Sustainability is going to be dressed up in costume, in our spooky costumes. So I encourage you to join us as we talk about vampire electronics. It's going to be a really fun program to learn more about what you can do at home and at work to help save energy. And last but not least, I have one final slide here. This is us, the Office of Sustainability. I encourage you to visit our webpage, wpb.org/green, and also you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We're WPB Green. And again, I'm going to send out all this information, all of our social media handles for Busch Wildlife and for the Office of Sustainability, and also web pages, and again, all the links that we've talked about today, because I know it's a lot of information. But I want to, again, just give a big thank you to Busch Wildlife Sanctuary and everyone who has joined us today. I hope you join us again next Friday, and have a happy Friday. Have a great weekend. And bye-bye.